Now listen. You may have heard these words before, but I'll teach you what they really mean. Go beyond! Plus!
Hey, what's up everyone? James here, and today we are finally back covering In this video, we're going to cover Pod Landing Arc Part 1 and 2 and Thicker Skin. I know this is long overdue, but now I promise we will catch up on this story. So, Pod Landing Arc Part 1 opens in the Axelon's Gymnasium, where we see Optimus Primal and Dinobot are sparring. I have to say, I do like this change in the artwork. Now, remember, Dinobot is still recovering from the wounds his former Predacon brethren gave him in the last battle. Primal is having a sparring match with Dinobot because this is Primal's way of mixing discussions with exercise, which we saw at the beginning of Savage Landing. And I didn't mention this in that last video, but this is the writer Erik Burnham giving a nod to the comic industry on constantly feeling the need to have talking head discussions, as he puts it, in comics. Now, Primal is checking up on Dinobot and seeing how he's acclimating to the other Maximals. And Dinobot admits to Primal that he's had limited interaction with the other Maximals, but Rattrap has threatened him. He sees it as progress, even though he could crush Rattrap if he wanted to. And Primal jokes with Dinobot, asking if he's sure about that because he hasn't shown him much in their sparring match. Dinobot becomes enraged at that comment and goes into his beast mode, and the sparring match becomes serious after this. He leaps towards Primal, his jaws bearing down on him as Primal holds him back with his sparring rod. Eventually, Primal's able to knock him back, and then he changes into his beast mode as Dinobot slashes him with his claws, asking, "Are you mocking me?" Primal replies with a right hook to the jaw of Dinobot, and this gets Dinobot amped up and he's ready to keep the sparring match going, but his body gives out on him, forcing him to call an end to the sparring match. Dinobot becomes frustrated at his body giving out on him, but Primal assures him the sparring match was fun and that they should do it again. While on their way to the restoration chamber, Primal tries to remind Dinobot of the trauma of his injuries and tells him that he shouldn't take it lightly, but Dinobot replies he doesn't need his concern. As Dinobot is in the restoration chamber, Primal tells him that he won't have to worry about being injured by the Predacons again because they altered the Axelon shield to recognize his spark signature, that the next time they face the Predacons, it'll be on their terms. However, Dinobot warns Primal he shouldn't underestimate his enemies because the Predacons are very good at exploiting an advantage. Meanwhile, at the dark side, Megatron has gone back to decrypting the golden disc. He successfully decrypts a file on the disc that reveals a message. And this is kind of crazy because what Megatron sees in this message is himself on the computer screen. The message plays briefly and then cuts out. The Darkseid computer informs Megatron the file got corrupted and cannot be retrieved. And Megatron screams in frustration, saying, "What was that message?" Now, if you guys noticed, Megatron had a rubber ducky of some sort in his T-Rex head hand, and it's funny, he tosses it to the side when he screams in frustration. Now, unbeknownst to Megatron, the other Predacons are outside his quarters, overhearing everything. Pterosaur suggests to the other Predacons that Megatron is losing his mind and they should prepare for a new leader. Scorponok replies that he sounds treasonous, and the only thing they should prepare for is an Energon run, that they can't win a war if they're low on fuel. Pterosaur replies that they can't win a war either if they don't fight it. They should be attacking the Axelon non-stop. However, Scorponok makes an excellent point here, saying that they would be blasting away at a shield they can't penetrate now, and they don't have to worry about the Maximals attacking because he says it's not in their nature, that they should stick to the original plan of gathering Energon and start the only fight that matters in time, the fight for Cybertron. Scorponok suggests in the meantime both of them and Waspinator gather as much Energon as possible, and Skolds here asks to tag along, mentioning that she can carry more Energon than all three of them combined. Like, don't forget you guys, Skolds here is the strongest of the Predacons. Scorponok tells her that they need her to stay to defend the ship, since Tarantulas and Megatron are focused on their work. But Skolds points out that he said the Maximals wouldn't attack, and Pterosaur interrupts, insulting Skolds, saying she can't come because she's too slow, implying that she's slow in every sense of the word. Pterosaur then flies off, laughing at her. As Pterosaur and Waspinator are flying towards one of the floating islands here, Waspinator basically asks Pterosaur why he bullies Skolds, and Pterosaur responds, saying he does it to keep Skolds from gaining enough confidence that she starts to believe she can lead the Predacons. Since Skolds is so strong, she could punch through solid duranium. And the funny thing here is this is an Easter egg. Duranium is the metallic substance used to construct the ships in Star Trek. So yeah, Skolds is so strong that she could punch a hole in the Enterprise. So this is the last thing Pterosaur wants, because we all know he secretly covets that position. When Waspinator asks Pterosaur what if he pushes Skolds too far, Pterosaur just assumes Skolds at this point would probably just cower in fear and not fight back. From there we go to one of the stasis pods in orbit, receiving a transmission that begins to upload a program, but the transmission is lost shortly after. Now if you guys remember back in part 6 of Savage Landing, Tarantulas discovered the stasis pods in orbit and attempted to land them so he could reprogram them into Predacons in order to start his own army that would help him overthrow Megatron. But Rattrap pulled in aliens and threw him out of the ship before he can complete his own personal mission. The pod begins to descend, and after the pod crash lands on the planet, Blackarachnia emerges confused, asking the onboard computer what planet is she on. And the onboard computer replies that it's undocumented and informs her about the incomplete program update, asking if she wants to complete it. And Blackarachnia applies to continue it as she begins to explore the planet. And as she's investigating the planet, she feels the energon radiation levels. Her onboard computer suggests going into her beast mode, but before this can happen, she's dragged into the river by this dragon-like crocodile. She tries to bash it in the head while being in this crocodile's jaws, but it doesn't affect it. The crocodile replies by smashing her into the riverbed. Now we don't see it, but it's safe to assume Blackarachnia uses her fangs to dispose of the crocodile. We then see her coming out of the riverbed unharmed in her beast mode. The onboard computer informs her that there's an active signal from a Cybertronian ship nearby. Back at the Axelon, while the Maximals play a card game, Dinobot informs them of the personality traits, strengths, and weaknesses of each of the Predacons. He says Scorponok is a true believer in the Predacon cause, and will align with any interest that he believes best serve it. Skold is powerful but insecure. Pterosaur is a bully with delusions of glory he'll never achieve. Waspinator isn't bright, but he could never tell if it was all an act or not. Tarantulas is already well known among the Maximal ranks, which we learned a bit about in Savage Landing Part 3. We only know that he's known as a butcher. I still think he's Dr. Frankenstein mixed with Hannibal Lecter, but we have yet to truly know his reputation on Cybertron. Rattrap cracks a bad tasting joke here about his reputation for backstabbing, which we know that's how he nearly took out Dinobot at the end of Savage Landing. Rhinox is surprised to hear Dinobot's blunt opinions about his former allies. And we learn here, even after everything the Predacons have done, Rhinox is still holding on to this delusion of a peaceful resolution and was hoping Dinobot's opinions would have revealed a path to that. We then go to Blackarachnia arriving outside the Axelon shields, and she quickly realizes she's able to go through because the defense system doesn't recognize her spark. And as she is on the ship about to check in with the Maximals, the Predacon program completes its installation and takes over. Now, as a fully fledged Predacon, Blackarachnia realizes that she has been undetected so far and has an excellent opportunity to cause real damage to the Maximals. As she sneaks by, Cheetor overhears something, and even though the other Maximals dismiss it as nothing since the shields are still up, Rhinox asks Nynx if she heard anything since she has the most sensitive audio receptors. And Nynx replies she didn't hear anything but mentions that she hears everything, and it's hard for her to filter out anything. Cheetor still abandons the game and goes to investigate. As he investigates, he asks the ship's computer if anyone came on board the last few hours, and when the computer replies negative, Blackarachnia ambushes Cheetor with a kick to the face. Cheetor is fast, so he's able to dodge her following attacks while trying to calm her down, thinking she's just a confused Maximal explorer who came from one of the pods. After Blackarachnia is able to land a hit that knocks him back, Cheetor decides to change into his beast mode and attack her before she can hurt herself or anyone else. Blackarachnia successfully dodges his attack and paralyzes Cheetor with her Venom Blaster. Cheetor contacts Optimus Primal over the comm system, saying we have a problem, but before he can continue, Blackarachnia shoots him again, knocking him out. And that is the end of Pod Landing Part 1. We then go to Pod Landing Part 2. Aboard the Axelon, Optimus Primal can't reach Cheetor on his comlink system. Primal asks the ship's computer where Cheetor is, and the computer replies he is near the processing bay. The Maximals head to the middle corridor, and they find Cheetor hanging from the ceiling, wrapped in webs that smell like energon all over his body. After Cheetor is freed, he tells them that a Predacon is on the ship. And Rhinox finds this hard to believe, but Primal reminds him the Maximals within the protoform pods could enter, but he wonders why would one of them attack. Rattrap informs Primal that Tarantulas was snooping around one of the labs in the last battle and could have done something to them. Primal then tries to order the ship's computer to search for other Maximal energy signatures, but the computer denies the request. He realizes the unknown Predacon has already broken into the system and taken control. He orders the Maximals to seal the ship and to split up in order to find this intruder. While Blackarachnia is already ahead of them, we see her watching them from the ship's security cameras as she starts hacking into the Axelon's data files and begins downloading them on her own server. She quickly realizes though she won't be able to extract all of the ship's files in time and comes up with an even better plan. Her new plan is to upload the Predacon code into all the protoform pods in space, turning them into loyal Predacon soldiers. At the same time the Predacon code is being uploaded to the protoform pods, Rhinox appears, threatening to put Blackarachnia in a holding cell. Blackarachnia replies you'll be too busy dealing with this, as she activates the landing protocols for all the space pods. Now she may not have been able to infect all of the pods, but she was able to infect over half of them. So this is still a big win for the Predacon cause. Now this is totally different from the original Beast Wars show. In the show, the Maximals and Predacons had to wait for each stasis pod to descend, and then each faction would race each other there, and whoever was the first one there had the first opportunity to convert that bot into their ranks. Blackarachnia easily outmaneuvers Rhinox and avoids capture. Rhinox then informs Optimus Primal their intruder called the protoform pods out of orbit with no designated landing paths. When Primal asks how, Rhinox replies that he doesn't know, but they will lose some pods no matter what he does. Primal, frustrated, tells the Maximals he wants the intruder captured, and Dinobot suggests that the intruder is possibly in the armory since that's something he would do. As the Maximals converge on the armory, suddenly Dinobot tackles Cheetor and Rattrap, yelling stop. Rattrap immediately calls him a traitor. However, Dinobot points out a web tripwire attached with 3 Talvox grenades they were about to trigger. Out of nowhere, an explosion occurs, rocking the Axelon. Rattrap quickly deduces that the intruder made an exit by blowing a hole in the ship. Cheetor, refusing to let Blackarachnia get away that easily, pursues her in his beast mode, quickly catching up and pouncing on her. Blackarachnia kicks him off and fires her Venom Blaster in order to paralyze him again, but Cheetor dodges her attacks, not falling for that trick again. He then wraps his jaws around her blaster. Blackarachnia uses her fangs to stab Cheetor on the side of his face and then uses her fangs to toss him aside. Cheetor changes into his bot form and starts immediately firing his blaster at Blackarachnia, telling her she'll answer for her crimes as Cybertron, the deaths of the protoform pods, and for her attacks against the Maximals. Blackarachnia replies, firing her fang repeating blasters. She's never been to Cybertron and the pods are stronger than he thinks. While the battle is at a standstill, Blackarachnia fools Cheetor into thinking she laid another trap for the Maximals. Cheetor, worried that the other Maximals would trigger it, abandons the battle and races back to the Axelon to warn them. Later, the Maximals regroup on the ship's bridge, Rhinox reporting the damage Blackarachnia caused. He says that she was able to download 10% of the ship's memory core and upload the Predacon code into over half of the protoform pods. When he pulled apart the code, he discovered a forcible overwrite replacing the maximal values with the aggressive version of the Predacon traits. Now, Rhinox says that there were other instructions there, but he doesn't reveal what they are. After hearing all this, Primal gets pissed and admits this is his fault. Now, I love what he says here. He says, I let myself get cautious after what happened to Nynx. Had us hide behind a shield while we bide our time working on repairs and studying the planet until we could find a way to deal with the Predacons, and it's gotten us nowhere. We are changing tactics, focusing on a new plan of attack, and when it's as perfect as we can make it, we are going to hit the Predacons where they live. Dinobot approves of this strategy, but replies, Maximals aren't known for launching preemptive strikes. And Primal just says, things change. Meanwhile, at the dark side, Blackarachnia sneaks onto the ship. And what's funny is we see Waspinator is asleep with a teddy bear in his arms. Blackarachnia sees Tarantulas is trying to contact the pods in space. She sneaks up behind him, reporting that the pods are no longer there. This surprises Tarantulas, and he then attacks Blackarachnia, demanding to know how she got in. When she replies with the access codes he sent her, Tarantulas quickly deduces he successfully contacted at least one of the pods when he was on the Axelon. But when he tells Blackarachnia that she is his slave and to bow before him, Blackarachnia kicks Tarantulas in the stomach, knocking him back, saying that part of the code didn't go through. I'm no one's slave. Though Tarantulas' experiment was partly successful in his eyes, he is pleased that another Predacon has joined their ranks, and swears to Blackarachnia that there will be more. Blackarachnia smiles and replies, "No need to swear, I bring wonderful news." And that is the end of the pod landing arc. We then go to our final story here, Thicker Skin. Now this story really focuses on Skold and is really damn good. Alright, so here it goes. So the story opens at the dark side with Megatron celebrating Tarantulas, rewriting the protoform pod's Maximal code into Predacons, adding more bots to their army. Even though Megatron is happy with the additional forces, he isn't pleased with the fact that Tarantulas kept this hidden from him until Blackarachnia showed up. Megatron announces to the other Predacons that the dozens of new recruits coming to their army will bring the return of the Predacons to their rightful places as the rulers of Cybertron. Tarantulas reminds Megatron though that not all the pods were reconditioned, and the energon radiation will make it difficult to track the pods. But Megatron doesn't think that it will be a problem. He says, despite the bravado of Optimus Primal, he would never risk one of his own in an attack. Once we acquire our new recruits, we'll maintain a permanent presence at the Maximal ship, hammering away at their ship's shields until it falls. We will continue our plan of gathering energon, decrypting the Golden Disc secrets, and repairing our ship. Once we return to Cybertron, the Tripedicus Council will bow, and my empire shall be born. What Pterosaur says next shows why Megatron once again is the brains of this operation. Pterosaur says that he thinks it would have been easier to use the transwarp drive to travel back in time and kill the Maximals before ever coming online. And Megatron explains that the last thing they want is to undo themselves in the process, that the past is a delicate foundation. Everything it holds will fall if you remove the wrong piece. He tells Pterosaur that he lacks foresight and one day that it will get him killed. And he orders Pterosaur and Waspinator to go looking for the pods. Pterosaur complains that the planet is too massive. However, Blackarachnia explains that all of the pods have been programmed to land within 500 clicks of the Maximal ship. Pterosaur, for some reason, accuses Blackarachnia of treachery and trickery for programming the pods to land so close to the Maximal ship. Blackarachnia leaps onto Pterosaur, quickly disarming him, saying she used that location because that's where she was at the time and wouldn't need tricks if she wanted to harm him. Skold, impressed with Blackarachnia, suggests they team up to find the pods, betting they can find more than Pterosaur and Waspinator, but Blackarachnia insults her, asking if she's an idiot, and saying the flyers will cover more ground. And you can see this hurts Skold's feelings, and it doesn't help that Pterosaur laughs at her and tells her that she needs to grow a thicker skin. Scorponok suggests to Skold that she help with maintenance, but Skold replies that she wants to be alone right now. Later, we see Skold out in the wilderness, and she feels her energon running low, and her onboard computer suggests hunting for food in the lake using her beast mode. And while snapping up a fish, she comes across one of the protoform pods at the bottom of the lake. In her bot form, Skold brings the pod out of the lake, and after she sets it down, the bot inside punches the door open, and this bot is revealed to be Razor Beast. He thanks Skold for helping set him free, but suddenly who appears, stopping time, are the Vought. We haven't seen these guys since Savage Landing Part 2. They're observing Skold and Razor Beast, and we learn from their discussion that Peacock is shocked to see how Razor Beast formed a whole personality at birth and seems to already be imprinting on Skold either as a parent or a mentor. Tunrar observes that both of them come from opposing factions, thinking maybe they'll kill each other. So this confirms that Razor Beast wasn't affected by the Predacon code. Takani is interested to see if any challenges they would face would have them behave or go against their faction's nature. Peacock likes the idea and arranges a little experiment involving Iron Wolves. The Vought disappear, and then we go back to Razor Beast and Skold meeting each other. Razor Beast asks Skold for an update on the present circumstances, because he's confused by the vast amount of energon radiation on this planet, and how Skold, a Predacon, ended up on an exploratory mission since they never go on those type of missions. So I found this interesting but also confusing. Compared to Blackarachnia's awakening, Razor Beast seems to have been born with a personality, and it seems like he's done exploratory missions before when he's supposed to be a newborn bot. If you guys know more, or if I missed something, let me know in the comments down below. But anyways, he asked Skold how she came to be on this mission, and this is where we get Skold's origin, and I like this a lot. Skold explains that she originally wanted to be an artist. She would spend all her time at the sculpture garden in Iacon, admiring all the works of art there, but she eventually gave up because she found something new to focus on. She doesn't tell Razor Beast this, but in her flashback we see the real reason Skold gave up was because she was constantly bullied and harassed by Maximals at the sculpture garden, who made her doubt herself and made her think her race was only good enough for mining or fighting in the gladiatory pits, which is a nice callback to the original Megatron, who was first a miner but then became a gladiator. At some point, Galavar approached her, who is now Megatron, and she ended up joining his rebellion. Out of nowhere, a howl interrupts Skold's story. Razor Beast and Skold discover that their path is blocked by Iron Wolves. Without hesitation, Razor Beast charges toward the Iron Wolves, changing into his bot form, delivering the first blow. As Skold and Razor Beast are battling the Iron Wolves, Skold tells Razor Beast to escape while she holds them off, but Razor Beast refuses to leave his new friend behind. When he uses his blaster against one of the Iron Wolves, he sees it doesn't have an effect on them. One of the wolves wraps its jaws around Razor Beast's arm, and then he is quickly overwhelmed by them. Skold, seeing this happen, goes all out, saying get off of him. One by one, she is taking out each Iron Wolf, beginning to create a pile of bodies around her. The very last wolf tries to escape, but she grabs it and rips it in half. Watching from afar are the Vok. Tunrar isn't happy with the loss of their pack of Iron Wolves. Pakak and Takani are surprised Skold went against her faction's nature. After taking out the Iron Wolves, Skold reaches Razor Beast's body and sees he's heavily damaged. When Razor Beast goes into his stasis lock, we see her debating on what to do. She knows if she takes him to the dark side, the Predacons will see he's not one of them. And if that happens, Megatron will have him killed and Tarantulas will take his body for experiments. She then realizes there's only one option left. Later we go to the Axelon. Rattrap informs Optimus Primal that Skold is outside their base. Primal and Dinobot go to meet her, and when Dinobot tries to speak with her, Skold refuses, saying he's nothing but a traitor. Primal says to speak with him then. Skold then presents him with Razor Beast's body and tells Primal that he was seriously injured while trying to save her from Iron Wolves. Primal is confused by this and asks Skold why a Predacon would show mercy to a Maximal, and Skold replies that she owes him her life and the Maximal's ship was closer, and calls out Primal for assuming all the Predacons are the same. As Skold turns to leave, Dinobot points out to her that she hasn't stuttered or mumbled once since she appeared at the Axelon, and tells her that she's good and may be in need of a better environment, and even suggests that she just join the Maximals. Skold shoves Dinobot aside, and this is where we get her hatred for the Maximals. She says that the Maximals are worse than the Predacons because they mask their cruelty behind a kind face, while Megatron and the other Predacons don't disguise who they are. At least she always knows where she stands with them. She says, next time we meet, I won't be this nice. And as Skold walks away, Dinobot growling replies, next time will be sooner than you think. And that is the end of Pod Landing and Thicker Skin. For those of you who have made it to the end of this video, just know that I greatly appreciate you. And I thank you for your comments, your likes, your subscription. If you want to see more Transformers related videos, check out my Transformers Last Prime video right here, or check out my IDW Transformers Timeline playlist, or even comment down below something else you want me to check out and post on the channel. Other than that, have an awesome day, take care, and always remember every day to go beyond. See you later, Beyonders.